Fair warning, I will be sappy and funny and all kinds of happy and all kinds of good things because this is a happy video. Alright, so today we're talking about uni, going from your master's, the mental transition from bachelor's to master's, what I've learned over the 4 years I've been here, sort of like a happy-go-lucky story time fun vibe mixed in with a few tips and tricks from what I learned when I moved here, basically. So, for those of you who don't know, I did my bachelor's in media and communication over at Erasmus University, Rotterdam, and that was quite an interesting experience. I really loved it. I love media. I love the power of media and what it means for people. I love the focus on audience retention and how audiences are constantly shifting and changing. Things like the changing role of audiences from sort of a passive consumer to a more critical consumer to now even producers and creators and more of an engaged community that's constantly taking content to move to another direction or to create it in themselves. Whether it's that side of it or more the societal implications of media, all the acquisitions that are happening, and all like the bigger behind the scenes things of how many companies actually own the different media products we use, or things like popular culture and representation, or things like how to develop proper communications campaigns. It was really a great mix of things and I loved it all. It brought me so much joy, but it felt so aimless. It felt so disconnected, but it's a bachelor's, right? And it's supposed to give you a base of communications and media studies. And it did that for me. It gave me a lot of opportunity to explore. So while it felt like not a single direction, you feel like a jack of all trades, it was also a bit more, here's your chance to explore all kinds of things in the communication and media sphere and see if you like it, if it really means something to you, or if you want to do something else. Funnily enough, if there's anything I learned from that study, it's to keep your mind open, because I ended up doing my thesis on surveillance and privacy, which was a topic I never thought I'd even learn about. Nothing I thought I'd explore. In media, who learns about surveillance and privacy? But that's the thing, media is a bit of media, a bit of tech, a bit of culture, a bit of politics even, because all of these different spheres are touched by media. And in my study, you got to really get a feel for all of them. Like I think I did a course on media in Latin America, which was very interesting to learn about the societal and cultural context there. A course on consumer behavior and marketing action, which was a bit more practical. Did a course on digital content, learning about what it takes for pieces to go viral and the difference between paid media and earned media and organic strategies versus non-organic strategies. So it was a bit of business, a bit of creative, a bit of culture, a bit of sociology, obviously, because it has a sociological base, sort of. But it was sort of a jack of all trades situation, and that leaves you a bit of like, okay, what do I do now? And I feel like I really struggled with bringing it to the real world. Like, what does that mean for my life or society in general? From there, I finished my bachelor's. Thank God I got good grades. And then from there, during all of this, sort of in parallel, I had my own businesses. I learned a lot about the real world, and I explored a lot about like management, change management, and leadership. I did a course on systemic leadership. If you want to hear a bit more about that, you can check out my This Changed My Life as a 22-year-old video, because that tells you a bit more about that. But from there, I really learned a lot about how to bring those different strategies and thoughts and ideas into the real world. And that was partly due to the internship situation and the fact that they actually pushed you to get practical knowledge to balance out your theoretical side. And there's also a fun story with that, because that was the reason I ended up starting my own company. But that's also in my other videos, so if you want to learn more about that, that's probably there. But yeah, that sort of, for me, created the balance and made me feel less lost than I did initially. But still, there was this weird, okay, what am I doing for my master's now? And I considered going to a different department or to a different university, but ultimately that didn't feel right for me. I loved my department, I loved my passionate professors, and I loved what I learned. So I made the choice to continue with media and creative industries. And now, having been a part of that study and still being a part of that study and learning a lot more, you really get to explore media from a more entrepreneurial, creative, change management lens, the management of media and the business side of media, and how to keep up with the constant rapid changes in consumer taste, in consumer approach also, because consumers are becoming a lot more practical, in who we are as people and the blurring lines of institutions, how the creative industry is now also becoming part of the tech industry and vice versa, and how the role of us as managers, particularly in the communications field, is to manage all of these different layers of narratives that are being put on us, whether by society, whether by the goals of the organization, whether by legal restrictions, while also balancing our own ethics. Because that's something that's really strong in both of my studies, ethics, and the importance of being a media person. Because media is a bit of a, can be interpreted as a gray area field, I would say. But really, if there's anywhere to learn proper ways to do it, it's Erasmus University, Rotterdam. So you might think, where is he going with this? Now that I've given you a bit of an overview, I just want to say, I guess, at least for me, studying in the Netherlands has put a lot more brain behind me, has filled my brain with ideas, with creativity, has made me more entrepreneurial, has made me more passionate, more alive, more connected with what I do, because I truly loved studying media. And from there, going from that shift of open to more focused has really allowed me to realize that I am also passionate about the management side. Because in the beginning I used to be like, yo, no, I only like the popular culture side, the content analysis side, the construction of popular narrative side of it all, and really I was a popular culture nerd, and I thought, hey, that's who I'm gonna be, and I'm probably gonna finish this and make videos about popular culture. But now you look at my channel and my videos are a lot more about life, entrepreneurship, building your own businesses, and it's funny how looking back you change. Now my life has become a lot more about running a successful media business, hopefully. Being an advocate for the rights of different people, especially those like me that are handicapped, that are internationals here. Making sure equity is at the forefront of the conversation and more meeting people where they're at, rather than equality, which is like, hey, everyone gets the same thing, but not everyone gets what they need. And trying to amplify more voices and bring more narratives to the table through what I do. By sharing my experience, I hope I can inspire others to share theirs. And I hope I'll take you along the ride to some interesting journeys as I dive more into things like D&I, diversity and inclusion this year. Or, I don't know, digital storytelling, which I'm also exploring. As you know, constantly everything here is practice. Diving more into the concept of systemic leadership if someone's interested, because I really like systemic leadership and I mentioned it a couple of videos ago. It really changed my outlook. But at the time, I thought systemic leadership, diversity and inclusion, all of that had nothing to do with what I was learning in media. And it was really fun to go to my master's and see that these things are actually relevant and being mentioned, because this is a lot more professional oriented. It's the kind of master's that you're supposed to take skills to the market with. And I think that was the shift from my bachelor's to my master's. Bachelor's is a lot more theory oriented. Obviously, masters are professionals, so professional oriented and really about building your career. So yeah, that's a bit of my thoughts on the topic. I hope this makes it interesting for you, makes you learn a bit more about what it's like to study in the Netherlands, and that's been my experience. Obviously, a few caveats. That was only in Rotterdam, Erasmus University, Rotterdam. I continued studying at my alma mater. I loved it there. I loved the research side of it as well. So if you really want a balanced, full-length, sort of connected experience where you get to explore your passions, I'd really recommend you look at things there. I can even leave a few links to my department down below if anyone's interested. But yeah, if that sounds like something for you, don't hesitate to look it up. Don't hesitate to apply. If you can, visit one of our bachelor's or master's open days. And if you want to ask me about it, please, by all means, my email's down there. I'm easy to contact. Yeah, if you're interested in more lifestyle-y videos, recommend checking out my tips videos about living here, or my culture shocks seems to be a popular one. And as you know, during the video, I also mentioned a couple that are interesting to you. You might find them down there. Also, please don't hesitate to ring the bell, subscribe, like, do all of those things that make YouTube spread this, so that we can hopefully reach a few people that are thinking about studying here and curious about what that's actually like, what that means for people.